Hi, welcome back to GameStop TV. I'm Julian here with Scott, and we're going to talk Avengers.
Yes.
Now, we got to see a trailer at the Square Enix press conference showing off this new Avengers game. It looks gorgeous, it looks amazing, and you're a big part of that. So, first thing I want to ask you is, what's this game going to be all about?
Oh, this to us is that labor of love, to be able to make our heroes and our fantasy just come true of being these superheroes. So for us, being able to have this amazing single-player campaign, cinematic, character-driven storytelling, and this great co-op adventure where you can assemble online in teams of 4 people and pick your favorite heroes. Go off and play together in these crazy adventures that we're setting up. So for us, it's a great blend between narrative, character-driven stories, and then that co-op experience.
So we actually here at E3 got to see some of the early gameplay of it, you know, the very beginning of the game, and watch these characters running around San Francisco in a huge cinematic battle, and it's easy to get lost into it and think, I'm watching an MCU movie.
Oh, that's very nice.
How much
generous.
was the MCU kind of an inspiration and a starting point for this game, and how much of this was your original ideas?
So when Marvel and Crystal, when we first talked about this several years ago, the first conversation was, what can we do that's an original take? 80 years of Marvel history. How do we go through all of that? Comics, TV shows, animated series, the movies, because this is several years ago. So this is before the MCU was like, you know, halfway through there. So it's like, what can we do to learn about all of this amazing stuff going on, but also going back to that source material, going back to the original comics, going back to these original stories, saying, you know, that's all great, and we want that, but we want to do our fresh yet familiar take on it. We want to do something, I recognize that hero, but here's a little spin. Here's something different. Here's that Crystal signature on top of it. So Marvel from the beginning said, pitch us good ideas, and then we'll work with you as those collaborators. They're kind of our North Compass, right? They know what the fans love. They know what good looks like. They know how to make these heroes for decades and actually feed the fans' needs of what they want them to be. So we love those guys. They're an amazing collaborator.
So speaking of familiar but different, the heroes in this story are going to be some voice actors that are going to be very familiar to anybody who's played just about any video
Absolutely.
game. You've got an amazing cast. It's Troy Baker, Nolan North, Laura Bailey, Jeff Shine, and Travis Willingham.
Oh, well done. There
Thank
you.
you.
Perfect.
Well, I mean, I've seen them so many times, it's hard to forget them all. That's an amazing cast that you've put together. So what is the story and the voice acting like in this game?
So Shauna Sky is our creative director. He's one of those guys, came from Uncharted and Last of Us, and so he said, look, we need to get the best of the best. We need to have that industry top talent that can come in and say, what can we do to put our own personalities and DNA into this world? And so I think if you saw the clip of the actors all talking about it, Nolan North really was that conversation. We went and said, hey, do you want to play Tony Stark? He's like, yes, just stop talking right
I'm
there.
sold, done.
And we're like, yeah. And so it's one of those wins that you start putting those pieces in place, and they're like, this is an amazing ensemble that we can put together and say, let's go be these heroes and put our version on it. So having top talent brings these characters to life in our own original take on them. And I think that's been such a dream to work with folks like that.
But the thing is, they're not done, because this game, you guys have announced you're planning on rolling out new additions to the story for years to come. This game, though, with the vision of having more and more content added to it, is kind of the first time that, as I'm aware of, that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal have tried this game as a service take. How are you guys ready to take on that challenge?
So the biggest thing for us is we have that beautiful campaign. You get it day one, you get it in the box, you have a complete campaign of how the world starts, the tragedy that happens, and reassembling the Avengers, and that's great. But it actually goes from that beautiful spine of a campaign, and as things branch open, as you go back and reassemble these heroes, and now I have my Hulk or my Iron Man, branches open, where you actually have more missions you can go on, more areas, and exploring their own individual stories. Those missions are actually co-op enabled. So as friends can dive in, and you can seamlessly go back and forth between that campaign and some of the co-op worlds. So it's all integrated.
Well, there was very little information before E3 started. I didn't know what to expect. I'm pretty blown away by what I've seen so far, and I actually can't wait to play it. When's it coming out?
Oh, it's coming out May 15th, 2020.
And what can people play it on?
PS4, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC.
Well, Scott, thanks so much for talking to us today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in, but we are still going to stick around Square Enix because I'm going to go and check out Dying Light 2. Let's go. Now we're going to talk Dying Light 2, which obviously is the sequel to Dying Light. I'm here with Adrian and Chris, and for those who maybe aren't familiar with the first Dying Light, why don't you give us first of all an overview of what Dying Light is about?
Dying Light is our vision of open world with a post-apocalyptic vision where all of the governments are gone and society are trying to build new places on the rooftops inside our city. So basically it's our vision of the apocalypse after the outbreak of the zombies.
So Dying Light had zombies, which is not unfamiliar, but it had some really cool takes on combat and movement that made it special, right?
Yes.
It was all really melee focused. There were guns, but usually you didn't want to use them. And then the part parkour was first person and really enthralling and fun to get in with. Now with Dying Light 2, how do you expand on those mechanics?
Yeah, that's the thing, because the world is one thing. The second thing is like how to survive in this world. So that's why we built a hero who can do the parkour, who can do the melee combat. Melee combat is more efficient way to fight. So basically, having this kind of knowledge, you can blend into this world and survive. Second thing, we have this avatar system and have this on your body. So this is an avatar upgrade. In the demo you've seen, there was a grappling hook and paraglider. So there are more tools like that. And the third, which is my favorite, is something that is connected very much with choices and consequences. So the world itself triggers the new way to travel through the city. So you made a decision, so the world will react, and eventually some of the people can help you build new passages, new way to travel through the city, and therefore you have more options to travel. So that's the evolution of parkour in Dying Light 2.
Yeah, that is probably the most ambitious aspect of this game. Other games have had, choice-related things that maybe affect character life and death, but this one, the entire world is at stake, and how you move through it, how you can even interact with it. So, Chris, it takes place in a new city just called The City, and what is it that you guys did to make this unique in terms of an open world experience that you can interact with?
Well, there was a lot of aspects that was already being drawn over from Dying Light 1. I think Techland's got a good handle on the open world system as it stands. What they did is they actually took the framework for the city in Dying Light 2, and I believe it's 4 times the size of the city in the first game, which is amazing. And then there's also the choices and consequences for what districts you open up, how you explore them, and just the entire open world aspect they've really nailed it.
So we got to actually watch a bit of gameplay, about 45 minutes worth, and see some of these choices and the consequences in action. You put us in some pretty tough places. We had to really make some hard decisions there. And from what I understand, it's long-lasting and permanent consequences. So what can players expect when they play through this the first time or the second time about how their choices are going to impact the world?
Well, the way it's set up is we want the choices and consequences to really matter in Dying Light 2. The way it's set up is that any one player, they're actually probably going to miss about 50% of the content in the game.
Oh, wow.
But we feel that's what makes it really impactful. And we do throw some really hard decisions at you, but it's a desperate world. It's on the brink. Even your day-to-day existence, there's a lot of pressure from the infection, fighting off the disease. There's a lot going on. We want the game to reflect that.
We are already so impressed with what we saw. You guys are clearly doing something really ambitious with this whole world, so thank you so much for showing us Dying Light 2.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for checking it out.
If you guys are interested in Dying Light 2, the release window right now is spring 2020, but you can pre-order it on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Just make sure to talk to a guest advisor. There's plenty more good stuff, including and especially for Square Enix fans and fans of JRPGs, a lot of Final Fantasy to talk about, and who better to take us there than our own Adrian. Adrian, take it away.
Thank you, Julian. I super appreciate it. I hope you're having fun over there. It's me, OK Adrian, here with GameStop TV Live at probably the most important interview I've ever done in my entire life. You know I love my Square Enix stuff. I love Final Fantasy VII, and what better place to be and what better company to have than Mr. Kitase's son himself. Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you.
北さん、お会いできて非常に光栄です。よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
Thank you very much.
I'm a big fan of the game, big fan of the series, as many people are out there, so there's going to be some questions I want to ask that are near and dear to my heart and near and dear to theirs. So, with the game having came out in 1997 originally, it's been a long time, but that's a lot of time to add some things that maybe you wanted to a long time ago, and you thought to yourself, maybe one day I could do this. Now that day has arrived, are we going to see some brand new things in this game that maybe you always wanted to add and now you can?
Because talking about new elements, there are new elements, but I'm thinking the main thing is back in the day, obviously this is 22 years ago, we were on the PlayStation 1, and the technology, the spec of the machine available at that time was so much lower than what we have today. So there were times when, certainly the polygon count, when we had to really cut down on the polygons and use a very deformed version of the characters. And there was maybe that kind of, a bit of a disjunct between going into battle where you had the full proportion characters, and then you come out and you go into a scene and you have these deformed characters. So coming now on the PlayStation 4 and using the power we have with the PlayStation 4, we really can do everything in a united style and consistency and have it as what we kind of really wanted to do in the first place with that visual depiction of these characters.
Now, speaking of improvement too, having played the game, the demo of it, and seen it in action, the quality of the weapons, the armors, everything that I'm familiar with. I mean, even the Buster Sword right away, you notice the little slots for materia and things like that. And so I have a takeaway from this, and I wonder if we're going to see materia slots for every weapon that has it possible, maybe even the armor and the accessories. Is that going to be a thing we'll see visualization-wise?
No, I mean, with the original game, again, that was another one of these slight disjuncts in the different scenes, because we had it so that the weapons that you equipped were actually shown in battle. You could see them there, but in the movie scenes, obviously, they were all pre-rendered. We couldn't have those changing freely, and in a lot of the other scenes. But for the remake, we've made sure that every weapon you carry will now have, not only represent that weapon on the character model, it'll have exactly the right number of material slots, and it'll show the actual material you have equipped to them.
I had to take a moment to appreciate that. I'm a big fan, so just knowing I'll see that is outstanding to think about. Now, with the game it shows so much nostalgia from the fans, and there's so many small memories people have takeaways of. And I wonder how hard it is to maintain the balance of making the game accessible to new fans while also introducing things that old fans will recognize.
No, I mean, there's obviously things change a lot over time since the original game came out. There's people's lives have changed a lot, and maybe it's like moral senses and certain. There's people's different approaches to things and proclivities, things like that. So we have changed and tweaked a few things here and there. But I think when you talk about those kind of old, like very nostalgic moments, everyone's got their favorite little moments and different things that they remember. We very much do want to try and keep all those really iconic little things and scenes in there as much as possible. But I also want to introduce some new things there and surprise people as well. So I think it'd be good for the players to play through it and look through the game and see what's changed and what's as they remember, and to really explore the game again with a new light.
So I guess one thing I really want to ask, an important question is, not many people get a chance like this with their own game. And what is the most important thing for you in this game, in this process? And what's the most important takeaway you want others to have as well?
No, I think obviously the first thing is I really don't want to disappoint anyone or to betray their expectations of this game. Final Fantasy VII Remake is a really, really highly expected game. Everyone's got their feelings towards it, and I really want to give, not disappoint anyone, give people what they want. But having said that, and what's very important is that just going that far will basically make the same game again. So I actually want to go beyond that and create something that will exceed the original in a lot of ways and give people surprises and more than what they're looking for, really.
Now, for those who are going to buy their copy on March 3rd, 2020, like myself, I understand there'll be different versions available. Can you talk a bit about those versions?
Okay, so there's the standard version of the game, the regular edition, which is just the game itself. Then we've also got a deluxe edition as well, and that contains a few extra things in addition to the game. You've got a steelbook case, you've got an art book, you've got a soundtrack, you've also got DLC as well. You've got the Chocobo Chick and the Cactuar Summon DLC. So the Chocobo Chick DLC is only available via a pre-ordering.
Thank you very much for this interview, and from a personal fan for that long, thank you so much for making this game happen. I really, really appreciate it more than you know.
I'm just so happy that you've got a fan who loves the game in front of me like this. So thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have more GameStop TV coming up. In fact, the Final Fantasy train doesn't stop. That's a Barrett reference if you caught it. Final Fantasy XIV news, so stay tuned and watch that, because I might be there for it. This is a very special part of the GameStop TV broadcast. The reason why? It's Final Fantasy XIV season, baby. You know what that means? It's time for Shadowbreakers. Ash, people haven't heard about it. What's new? What can we expect? What's the good stuff?
Shadowbreakers is releasing July 2nd, so it's right around the corner. We have two new jobs this time around, the Dancer and the Gunbreaker.
Yeah.
And obviously we have two new races, the Hrothgar and the Viera. Those are kind of the main two new things, but there's so many things about this expansion that are awesome. Obviously we're leveling up the level cap to level 80. We have New Game Plus. You have the Trust system, in which you can actually take on some dungeons by yourself now with NPCs in the game. There's a lot of really cool stuff, man. I could go on forever.
So this New Game Plus system, how does that work exactly?
It allows you to take on all of the story class missions that you may have finished already with either your alt or go back and reset them and do them yourself again.
Awesome.
So it's really cool.
And we're talking about a brand new location too, like brand new
You're going
areas.
to the first. Yeah, the Warrior of Light's going to try to become the Warrior of Darkness.
To restore the balance, right? You can't delve into that. I know.
We can't go too much
look
into the
like
story,
this, a little turn of the head right there.
It's the story makes Final Fantasy XIV Online, kind of separates it from the rest of the MMOs out there, and this is going to be an awesome, epic story, and it's something that we've been really looking forward to.
What's your favorite change so far, personally, do you think? What do you grasp onto?
I played around with the Trust system, and I thought it's incredible to be able to go through a dungeon and actually able to interact with the Scions and have them kind of banter with each other when you're going through a dungeon.
Oh,
It's
they do
actually
that?
really cool. Yeah, it's really.
just
They
kinda
all have
walk around and-
personality. No, they all have their personalities and everything when they're going through it. It's really cool. Yeah, and I mean the game's obviously releasing on PS4, and the other thing I definitely want to say is that we're always going to be releasing an update to our complete edition as well. So once July 2nd comes around, you'll actually get the original Realm Reborn, you'll get Heavensward, you'll get Stormblood, and Shadowbringers in the new complete edition as well.
That's on PlayStation 4?
Yes.
Something else to look forward to. The season's here. The time is now. If you haven't pre-ordered it, if you haven't played it, you're going too soon. So make sure you do pre-order it. I'll be there. Inner monologue, Excalibur. Come see me. If you want a PvP, I wouldn't risk it. But what I would risk is sticking around for more GameStop TV. Stay tuned.